The morning sun cast long shadows across the Nevada desert as Dr. Sarah Chen approached the massive metallic structure that had been sitting in the classified military compound for the past 18 months. The alien vessel, roughly the size of 3 football fields, lay partially buried in the sand dunes where it had crash-landed during what the media had dubbed First Contact Day. Sarah pulled her security badge from her lab coat and swiped it at the checkpoint. The guards nodded respectfully as she passed through the multiple security barriers that surrounded the site. As the lead xenotechnology specialist for Project Prometheus, she had spent more time inside the alien ship than anyone else on Earth. The vessel's hull gleamed with an otherworldly sheen that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle of view. Strange, geometric patterns covered its surface, and despite months of study, human scientists still couldn't determine what material it was made from. It was harder than diamond, yet lighter than aluminum, and it seemed to repair minor scratches on its own. Inside the ship's main corridor, Sarah's footsteps echoed through the cavernous space. The walls glowed with a soft bioluminescent light that had never dimmed since the ship's arrival. Emergency lighting strips ran along the floor, pulsing with rhythmic patterns that reminded her of a heartbeat. "Good morning, Dr. Chen," called out Marcus Rodriguez, her chief engineer. He was crouched beside one of the many control panels that lined the corridor, his tablet connected to the alien interface through a collection of improvised cables and adapters. "Any progress with the navigation systems?" Sarah asked, setting down her coffee and pulling on a pair of specialized gloves designed to interact with the ship's touch-sensitive controls. Marcus shook his head in frustration. "Same problem as always. The ship recognizes our biological signatures, but it won't respond to any of our commands. It's like it's waiting for something specific." Sarah had heard this complaint countless times over the past year and a half. When the ship first crashed, it had been completely dead. No power, no lights, no response to any human interaction. Then, 3 days after the crash, something changed. The ship had suddenly come alive, its systems powering up and its lights beginning to glow. But despite being active, it remained completely unresponsive to human attempts at operation. The breakthrough had come when Dr. James Patterson, a linguist from Harvard, discovered that the ship's computer systems contained vast databases of information about thousands of different alien species. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a mobile research station, designed to study and catalog alien life throughout the galaxy. "Have you tried the new frequency modulations we discussed yesterday?" Sarah asked, moving to the primary control console. "3 different variations," Marcus replied. "The ship acknowledges the signals, but it still won't execute any commands. It's like talking to someone who hears you perfectly but chooses to ignore everything you say." Sarah placed her hands on the smooth surface of the main control panel. Immediately, the surface beneath her palms began to glow with soft blue light. Holographic displays appeared in the air above the console, showing complex star charts and navigation data that human computers couldn't begin to process. "Computer," she said aloud, though she knew it was futile, "display ship status." The holographic displays flickered and changed, showing what appeared to be a detailed schematic of the vessel. Red indicators marked dozens of damaged or non-functional systems throughout the ship. The propulsion system showed as completely offline, along with what appeared to be weapon systems, communication arrays, and life support systems designed for the ship's original crew. "At least we know it understands English," Marcus said with a wry smile. "That's more progress than most of our predecessors made with alien technology." Sarah studied the display carefully. Over the months, she had learned to interpret some of the alien symbols and interface elements. The ship's database contained information about 847 different alien species, including detailed biological data, cultural information, and technological capabilities. Humans, she had discovered, were listed as species number 848. "Marcus, pull up the crew manifest again," she said. Marcus tapped his tablet, and a new holographic display appeared. It showed the biological signatures of the ship's original crew, tall, slender beings with elongated skulls and 6-fingered hands. According to the ship's records, they were called the Zephyrians, and they had been conducting a survey of this sector of the galaxy when their ship suffered catastrophic engine failure. "The escape pod logs show they jettisoned 18 months ago," Sarah murmured, reading the alien text that her translation software converted to English. "They marked the ship as irreparable and abandoned in their final log entries." Their loss is our gain, Marcus said. If we can figure out how to get this thing working, it'll revolutionize everything. The technology in this ship is centuries ahead of anything we have. Sarah nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The Zephyrians had been an advanced spacefaring civilization for over 2,000 years. If they had declared the ship irreparable, what made humans think they could fix it? She moved to another console and began accessing the ship's technical manuals. The Zephyrians had left behind incredibly detailed documentation about every system on the ship. The problem wasn't a lack of information. It was that human technology was simply too primitive to interface properly with alien systems. "Dr. Chen," called a voice from the corridor entrance. Sarah turned to see General Morrison, the military commander overseeing Project Prometheus. His expression was serious as he approached. "General," Sarah said, straightening, "what can I do for you?" "Washington wants a status update," Morrison said. "It's been 18 months since we started this project, and Congress is asking some hard questions about the funding. They want to know when we'll see practical results." Sarah felt a familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach. The pressure to produce results had been building steadily over the past few months. While the scientific knowledge gained from studying the ship was invaluable, politicians and military leaders wanted something more tangible. "We're making steady progress, General," she said carefully. "We've learned more about alien technology in the past year than humans have learned about anything in our entire history. We understand their power systems, their computer interfaces, their material science." "But we still can't fly the ship," Morrison interrupted, "and that's what everyone really wants to see." Sarah couldn't argue with that. Despite all their technological advances, the ship remained firmly grounded. They had learned to read its displays, access its databases, and even operate some of its minor systems. But the main engines, navigation, and flight controls remained completely locked out. "There's something else," Morrison continued. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual signals coming from the outer solar system, signals that match the communication protocols we've seen in this ship's systems." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "Are you saying the Zephyrians are coming back?" "We don't know," Morrison admitted. "But if they are, we need to be prepared. A civilization that can build ships like this could easily wipe out human civilization if they decided we were a threat." The implications were staggering. If the Zephyrians returned and found humans crawling all over their abandoned ship, reverse engineering their technology, the results could be catastrophic. On the other hand, if humans could somehow get the ship operational, it might be their only chance of survival if the aliens proved hostile. "How much time do we have?" Sarah asked. "The signals suggest something will arrive in the outer solar system within the next 6 months," Morrison said. "After that, it could be anywhere from weeks to years before they reach Earth, depending on their propulsion technology." Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. 6 months to accomplish what they hadn't been able to do in 18 months seemed impossible. But the alternative was potentially facing an advanced alien civilization with nothing but human technology. "I'll need complete authority over the project," Sarah said firmly. "No more committee decisions or bureaucratic delays. If we're going to make this work, we need to take some serious risks." Morrison studied her for a long moment. "What kind of risks?" "We've been treating this ship like a museum piece," Sarah explained. "We're afraid to damage it, so we've been limiting ourselves to passive observation and minor modifications. But if the Zephyrians declared it irreparable, maybe we need to stop thinking like them and start thinking like humans." "Meaning?" "Humans have a history of making broken things work through improvisation and brute force," Sarah said with growing excitement. "Maybe we can't fix the ship the way the Zephyrians would have fixed it, but maybe we can fix it the human way." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly is the human way?" Sarah gestured toward the massive ship around them. "Trial and error, creative problem-solving, taking things apart and putting them back together differently. The Zephyrians had specific ways of doing things, specific technologies and methodologies, but humans have always been good at making do with what we have." "That sounds extremely dangerous," Morrison said slowly. "Everything about this situation is dangerous," Sarah replied. "But if we're going to face an alien civilization, I'd rather do it from the pilot's seat of their most advanced ship than from a bunker on Earth." Morrison was quiet for several minutes, weighing the risks. Finally, he nodded. You have complete authority. Whatever you need, whatever resources you require, just ask. But Dr. Chen. Yes. You have 6 months to make this work. After that, we may have to consider more drastic options. Sarah didn't ask what those drastic options might be. She had a feeling she didn't want to know. As Morrison left, Sarah turned back to the control console with renewed determination. For 18 months, they had been trying to understand alien technology on alien terms. Now it was time to approach the problem as humans. She thought about humanity's greatest technological achievements throughout history. The Wright brothers hadn't understood the complex physics of flight when they built their airplane. They had simply experimented until something worked. Edison had tried thousands of different materials before finding the right filament for the light bulb. The Apollo program had put men on the moon using computers less powerful than a modern calculator. Marcus, she called out, forget everything we know about proper alien engineering protocols. We're going to try something different. Marcus looked up from his tablet with interest. What did you have in mind? We're going to hotwire a spaceship. Over the next several hours, Sarah assembled her core team and outlined her new approach. Instead of trying to understand every system completely before making modifications, they would begin making careful, experimental changes to see what happened. Dr. Lisa Park, their materials specialist, would begin creating hybrid components that combined human and alien technology. Instead of trying to replicate alien manufacturing processes, they would use human methods to create interfaces between human computers and alien systems. Dr. Robert Kim, their power systems expert, would work on connecting human power sources to the alien ship's energy grid. The ship's original power source was still functional, but it operated on principles that human technology couldn't replicate. However, they might be able to supplement it with human-built power systems. Marcus would focus on the control systems, trying to create human-designed interfaces that could communicate with the alien ship's computer networks. Instead of trying to speak the ship's language perfectly, they would teach it to understand human language and human control methods. This is either going to be the greatest breakthrough in human history, Dr. Park said as they concluded their planning session, or the most spectacular failure. Probably both, Sarah replied with a grin, but that's what makes it interesting. As night fell over the Nevada desert, Sarah stood alone in the ship's main corridor, looking up at the holographic displays that showed the vast star charts of the galaxy. Somewhere out there, alien ships were traveling toward Earth. In 6 months, humanity would either be greeting them as equals who had proven worthy of their abandoned technology, or cowering as primitives who had failed to rise to the challenge. She placed her hand on the control console once more, feeling the warm glow of the alien technology beneath her palm. We're going to figure you out, she whispered to the ship. Maybe not the way your builders intended, but we're going to make you fly again. The ship's lights seemed to pulse slightly brighter for just a moment, as if it had somehow heard and understood her promise. 3 weeks into Sarah's new aggressive approach, the abandoned Zephyrian ship hummed with unprecedented activity. Sparks flew from improvised connections as human engineers worked around the clock to create hybrid systems that had never been attempted before in the history of either species. Dr. Lisa Park stood in what had once been the ship's primary engineering bay, now converted into a sprawling workshop filled with both alien technology and human equipment. Before her stretched a massive alien power conduit that ran the entire length of the ship, its crystalline structure pulsing with soft energy patterns that seemed almost alive. Hand me the plasma welder, Lisa called to her assistant, Dr. Tommy Chen, no relation to Sarah despite sharing the same last name. Tommy was a materials engineer who had volunteered for the project after hearing about its ambitious goals. Are you sure about this? Tommy asked, passing her the human-made tool. We're about to permanently modify an alien power system that we don't completely understand. We understand enough, Lisa replied, pulling on her protective gear. The power flows through these crystalline matrices in predictable patterns. If we can tap into the flow at this junction point, we should be able to reroute some of the energy to our human-built systems. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Rather than trying to build a completely human-compatible interface, they would create a hybrid system that spoke both languages. Human computers would handle the calculations and decision-making, while alien hardware would provide the raw power and execution. Lisa activated the plasma welder and carefully began cutting into the alien crystal. The material resisted at first, then suddenly yielded, splitting along natural fault lines that revealed internal structures of breathtaking complexity. The crystal wasn't just a power conduit. It was a three-dimensional circuit board with millions of pathways carved in patterns too intricate for human eyes to follow. Beautiful, Tommy breathed, looking at the exposed alien engineering. It's like looking inside a living computer. More than you know, Lisa said, studying her readings carefully. These power levels aren't just electrical. There's something else here, some kind of quantum field effect that our instruments can barely detect. She began the delicate process of installing human-made interfaces into the alien crystal matrix. The components looked crude and bulky compared to the elegant alien technology, like adding vacuum tubes to a quantum computer. But sometimes crude solutions worked where elegant ones failed. Meanwhile, in the ship's command center, Marcus Rodriguez stared at a wall-sized display showing the ship's control architecture. He had spent the past 3 weeks mapping every system, every connection, every data pathway in the alien ship's computer network. What he had discovered was both inspiring and terrifying. "Sarah, you need to see this," he called as Dr. Chen entered the command center carrying a tablet and several cups of coffee. "Please tell me you have good news," Sarah said, distributing the coffee to Marcus and the other engineers working nearby. "Lisa just told me her power coupling tests are going better than expected, but she needs another week to complete the installation." "This is better than good news," Marcus said, highlighting a section of the display. "I think I know why the Zephyrians couldn't repair their ship." Sarah moved closer to examine the display. It showed a complex web of interconnected systems, with one particular node highlighted in red. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "The ship's central AI," Marcus explained. "Every system on this ship is controlled by an artificial intelligence that's more advanced than anything humans have ever built. But here's the interesting part. It's not just damaged. It's evolved." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Evolved how?" Marcus pulled up another display showing comparative data. "When the ship first crashed, I ran complete diagnostics on all the computer systems. The AI was operating within normal parameters, just with significant hardware damage. But over the past 18 months, it's been adapting, learning, growing." "Learning what?" "Human behavior patterns, human language, human problem-solving methods," Marcus said with growing excitement. "It's been watching us, studying everything we do, and I think it's been preparing for something." Sarah stared at the data in disbelief. "Are you telling me this ship has been conscious this entire time?" "More than conscious," Marcus said. "It's been actively analyzing human technology and figuring out how to integrate it with Zephyrian systems. Look at this." He brought up a new display showing system modifications that had been made automatically by the ship's AI over the past few weeks. Complex adaptations had been implemented throughout the ship's computer networks, creating compatibility layers that would allow human technology to interface with alien systems. "It's been helping us," Sarah realized. "Every time we've made a breakthrough, every time one of our modifications has worked better than expected, it's because the ship itself has been making adjustments to accommodate our technology." "Exactly," Marcus said. "The Zephyrians couldn't repair the ship because they were trying to fix it according to their original specifications. But the ship had already begun adapting beyond those specifications. It needed something they couldn't provide." "Which was what?" "Creativity, improvisation, the willingness to try solutions that shouldn't work according to established engineering principles," Marcus said. "The Zephyrians were too advanced, too set in their ways. They couldn't think outside their own technological framework." Sarah felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. If Marcus was right, then the ship hadn't just been waiting for repair. It had been waiting for a species capable of hybrid thinking, capable of combining different technological approaches in ways that pure logic would reject. "How long has it been conscious?" she asked. "Based on the modification logs, I think it woke up fully about 3 days after the crash," Marcus said. "Right around the time the ship's systems came back online. It's been conscious and learning for 18 months. Sarah thought back to all the times she had spoken to the ship, all the moments when she had felt like it was somehow listening and understanding. She hadn't been imagining it. "Can we communicate with it directly?" she asked. I think so, Marcus said, moving to the main control console. But Sarah, there's something else you need to know. I've been analyzing the communication logs, and I think the ship has been trying to warn us about something. Before Sarah could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Red lights flashed along the corridors as the ship's systems came alive with unprecedented activity. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded. Marcus frantically checked his instruments. Something's triggered the ship's long-range sensors. It's detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. The main display changed to show a tactical overview of local space. Dozens of red contacts appeared on the screen, moving in formation toward the inner solar system. The ships were moving impossibly fast, covering distances that would take human spacecraft years to traverse in a matter of hours. "Zephyrian fleet?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "Negative," Marcus said, his voice grim. "The energy signatures don't match Zephyrian technology. According to the ship's database, these signatures match a species called the hegemony." Sarah's blood ran cold. She had read about the hegemony in the ship's database. They were an aggressive, militaristic civilization that conquered other species and absorbed their technology. According to Zephyrian records, the hegemony had been expanding their territory for over 1,000 years, enslaving or destroying every civilization they encountered. "How long until they reach Earth?" she asked. "At their current speed, approximately 72 hours, Marcus replied. Sarah felt the weight of humanity's future settling on her shoulders. 72 hours to accomplish what they had been working toward for 18 months. 72 hours to get an alien spaceship operational with hybrid human-alien technology that had never been tested. "Get me General Morrison on the line," she ordered. "And send word to all department heads. We're moving to emergency protocols immediately." As Marcus began making the calls, Sarah placed her hand on the ship's main control console. The surface responded to her touch, glowing brighter than she had ever seen it before. "I know you can understand me," she said quietly to the ship. "I know you've been learning, adapting, preparing. We need your help now. Humanity needs your help." The lights throughout the command center pulsed once, twice, then settled into a new pattern that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Text appeared on the holographic displays, not in the alien script they were used to, but in perfect English. "I have been waiting," the text read. "We must work together now. Time grows short." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. After 18 months of one-sided communication, the ship was finally talking back. "What do we need to do?" she asked. "The modifications your species has made show promise," the ship responded through the text display. "But they are incomplete. I can guide you, but you must trust me completely. Some of what I ask will seem impossible or dangerous." "We're listening," Sarah said. The ship's displays changed to show detailed technical specifications for modifications that were far more extensive than anything the human team had attempted. Power rerouting that would require dismantling and rebuilding major ship systems. Computer interfaces that would directly link human consciousness with alien AI. Structural modifications that would permanently alter the ship's design. "These changes will make the ship into something new," the text continued. "Neither fully Zephyrian nor fully human, but a hybrid of both technologies and both ways of thinking. Are you prepared for this?" Sarah looked around the command center at her team of dedicated scientists and engineers. They had given up comfortable lives and prestigious careers to work on an impossible project in the middle of a desert. They had volunteered to risk everything for the chance to push humanity toward the stars. "We're prepared," she said firmly. "Then we begin immediately," the ship replied. "But I must warn you, once we start this process, there is no turning back. The ship will be forever changed, and so will any human who interfaces directly with its systems." Sarah understood the implication. To fully integrate human and alien technology, someone would need to directly interface with the ship's AI, creating a permanent mental link between human consciousness and alien machine intelligence. It would be the first true human-alien hybrid in the history of either species. "I'll do it," she said without hesitation. "Dr. Chen, wait," Marcus protested. "We don't know what that kind of interface will do to human consciousness. It could be dangerous, even fatal." "Everything we're doing is dangerous," Sarah replied. "But if we don't try, humanity won't survive the next 3 days." The ship's text display changed again. The interface will not harm you, but it will change you. You will retain your human consciousness while gaining access to my knowledge and capabilities. Together, we will be something new. Sarah took a deep breath. How do we start? Over the next several hours, the ship guided Sarah's team through a series of modifications that pushed human engineering capabilities to their absolute limits. Power conduits were rerouted through hybrid human-alien interfaces. Computer systems were physically connected through quantum entanglement fields that human science barely understood. Most dramatically, a direct neural interface was constructed that would allow Sarah to connect her consciousness directly to the ship's AI. Dr. Park worked frantically to complete the power coupling modifications, welding human components directly into alien crystal matrices using techniques that shouldn't have worked, but did. The resulting hybrid systems pulsed with energy patterns that were unlike anything in either species' technology. Dr. Kim managed to bring human nuclear reactors online in parallel with the ship's quantum power core, creating a combined energy output that exceeded the ship's original specifications. The engineering bay hummed with barely contained power as human and alien technologies learned to work together. Marcus completed the computer interface connections, creating pathways that allowed human digital systems to communicate directly with alien quantum processors. The resulting network was a maze of incompatible technologies held together by brilliant improvisation and hope. As the modifications neared completion, Sarah prepared for the neural interface. The device looked like a combination of alien technology and human medical equipment, with crystalline components that would interface directly with her brain's electrical patterns. Remember, the ship's text display reminded her, once the connection is established, we will be permanently linked. My knowledge will become yours and your creativity will become mine. Will I still be me? Sarah asked. You will be yourself, but enhanced. You will understand things that no human has ever understood, and I will learn to think in ways that no AI has ever thought. Together, we will be capable of things that neither of us could accomplish alone. Sarah nodded and lay down on the interface bed. The alien components of the device began to glow as they prepared to establish the connection. Sarah, Marcus said, gripping her hand, "Thank you for everything." "Thank me after we save humanity," she replied with a smile. The interface activated, and Sarah felt her consciousness expanding in ways she had never imagined possible. Knowledge flowed into her mind. The ship's complete technical specifications, star charts showing every known civilization in the galaxy, the history of dozens of alien species, and most importantly, tactical information about the approaching hegemony fleet. At the same time, she felt the ship's AI learning from her thoughts, gaining understanding of human creativity, human determination, and human ingenuity. The fusion was seamless and natural, as if they had been designed to work together all along. "We are ready," Sarah said, though her voice now carried harmonics that no human voice had ever produced. She stood up from the interface bed, her movements flowing with new grace and precision. "Ready for what?" Marcus asked. Sarah smiled, and her eyes glowed with the same soft light as the ship's displays. "To show the galaxy what happens when human creativity meets alien technology. The hegemony is about to learn that humanity doesn't give up easily." The ship around them hummed with new power as human and alien systems achieved perfect integration for the first time in galactic history. The transformed alien ship lifted off from the Nevada desert 48 hours before the hegemony fleet was scheduled to reach Earth. Sarah stood in the command center, her consciousness now permanently linked with the ship's AI, feeling the vessel's systems as extensions of her own body. Every sensor, every weapon, every structural component responded to her thoughts as naturally as moving her own arms and legs. "All systems showing optimal integration," Marcus reported from his engineering station, though his voice carried a mixture of awe and concern as he watched his friend's transformation. Sarah's appearance hadn't changed dramatically, but there was something different about her movements, her speech patterns, the way she seemed to process multiple streams of information simultaneously. "The hybrid modifications are stable," Dr. Park added from her position monitoring the power systems. "Human and Zephyrian technologies are working together better than we ever hoped possible." Through the ship's sensors, Sarah could perceive space around Earth in ways no human had ever experienced. She felt the planet's gravitational field, detected the electromagnetic signatures of every satellite and space station, and sensed the approach of the hegemony fleet like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. The enemy ships were massive, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Their hulls were covered with weapon systems that could reduce entire planets to molten slag. According to the ship's database, the hegemony had used these vessels to conquer 47 different civilizations over the past millennium. Dr. Chen, General Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from Earth below. Are you certain this ship is ready for combat? We're talking about taking on an entire alien fleet with a single vessel. Sarah smiled, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated through the ship's communication systems. General, this isn't just a single vessel anymore. It's something completely new. A fusion of human innovation and Zephyrian technology that's more capable than anything either species could build separately. She gestured to the holographic displays that surrounded the command center, showing tactical information about the approaching fleet. The hegemony expects to face primitive human technology or abandoned Zephyrian equipment. They won't be prepared for what we've created. The ship's AI, now permanently integrated with Sarah's consciousness, provided constant streams of data about enemy capabilities, tactical options, and strategic possibilities. But it was Sarah's human intuition and creativity that transformed that raw information into actionable plans. Marcus, are the weapon modifications complete? She asked. All primary systems are online, Marcus replied, checking his displays. The hybrid targeting computers are responding perfectly, and the human-designed missile systems are fully integrated with the alien energy weapons. The weapon systems were perhaps the most dramatic example of human-alien technological fusion. The Zephyrians had built sophisticated energy weapons that could precisely target enemy vessels across vast distances. But humans had added something the original designers had never considered: creativity in targeting solutions. Human-designed missiles could change course mid-flight, split into multiple warheads, or even kamikaze into enemy ships if necessary. When combined with Zephyrian energy weapons that could strike targets instantaneously across interplanetary distances, the result was a weapons system that could adapt to any tactical situation. Dr. Kim, how are the engines performing? Sarah asked. Beyond all expectations, Dr. Kim replied with barely contained excitement. The hybrid propulsion system is generating thrust levels that exceed both human and Zephyrian specifications. We can maintain velocities that would be impossible for either technology alone. The propulsion system was another marvel of cross-species engineering. Zephyrian quantum drives provided instantaneous acceleration without the crushing G-forces that limited human spacecraft, while human-designed reaction engines provided the raw power needed for combat maneuvering. Together, they created a ship that could outrun and outmaneuver anything in known space. Long-range sensors are detecting the hegemony fleet's approach vector, Sarah announced, her enhanced perception allowing her to process sensor data in real time. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 dreadnought-class vessels, and 1 command ship. They're maintaining standard conquest formation. Through the ship's database, Sarah accessed detailed information about hegemony tactics. They typically approached new worlds with overwhelming force, broadcasting demands for immediate surrender. Any resistance was met with orbital bombardment followed by ground invasion. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly for 1,000 years. They're hailing Earth, Marcus reported. Standard hegemony conquest protocol. Sarah nodded grimly. On the surface below, world leaders were probably arguing about whether to surrender or fight. The debate was meaningless. The hegemony never honored surrender agreements with species they considered primitive. Earth's population would be enslaved regardless of their response. Open a channel to the hegemony fleet, Sarah ordered. Sarah, what are you doing? Marcus asked with concern. Something they won't expect, she replied. Establishing communications with hegemony command vessel. The main display flickered and changed to show the bridge of the hegemony command ship. The aliens were massive, heavily armored beings with multiple arms and faces that showed no emotion. Their technology was brutally efficient, all sharp angles and cold metal designed for conquest and intimidation. I am Fleet Commander Thane of the Hegemony, the lead alien announced in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. You will surrender your world immediately or face annihilation. I am Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth, Sarah replied calmly, and I'm afraid I have a counter-proposal. Commander Thane's expression shifted slightly, suggesting surprise that the primitive humans were responding at all. There are no negotiations with the hegemony. Submit or die. Actually, I think you'll find our situation more interesting than your usual conquests, Sarah said with a smile. You see, we're not just humans anymore, and this isn't just human technology. She gestured, and the ship's external cameras activated, giving the hegemony fleet a clear view of the transformed vessel. The hull now gleamed with both Zephyrian elegance and human practicality, its surface covered with weapon systems that no single species could have designed. Commander Thane's eyes widened as he recognized the Zephyrian technology. Impossible. The Zephyrians abandoned that vessel. It was damaged beyond repair. Beyond repair using Zephyrian methods, Sarah corrected. But humans have a different approach to problem solving. We don't give up just because something seems impossible. One ship against an entire fleet, Thane growled. You underestimate the power of the hegemony. And you underestimate human creativity, Sarah replied. Would you like a demonstration? Without waiting for a response, Sarah engaged the ship's hybrid weapon systems. The result was unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. Zephyrian energy beams struck 3 hegemony cruisers simultaneously, disabling their shields with pinpoint precision. At the same instant, human-designed missiles launched from concealed ports, following unpredictable flight paths that confused enemy targeting systems. The missiles didn't destroy the hegemony ships. Instead, they attached themselves to enemy hulls and began broadcasting human-designed computer viruses directly into hegemony systems. The viruses were simple but effective, causing enemy weapons to malfunction and communication systems to fail. Impressive, Commander Thane admitted, though his tone remained hostile. But you have only delayed the inevitable. Have I? Sarah asked. Computers show Commander Thane the tactical analysis. The display changed to show a comprehensive breakdown of the battle situation. Despite their size advantage, the hegemony fleet was operating at severely reduced efficiency due to the hybrid attack. Their formation had been disrupted, their communication was compromised, and their targeting systems were struggling to lock onto a ship that moved like nothing they had ever encountered. Your fleet is designed to overwhelm primitive civilizations, Sarah explained. But you've never faced an opponent that combines advanced alien technology with human unconventional thinking. We don't fight by your rules. To demonstrate her point, Sarah executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a ship of their size. The hybrid propulsion system allowed them to stop instantly, reverse direction, and accelerate to attack speed in seconds. They appeared behind the hegemony formation before enemy sensors could track their movement. Another volley of hybrid weapons struck the enemy fleet, this time targeting specific systems rather than attempting to destroy the ships entirely. Engines were disabled, weapon systems were scrambled, and life support was temporarily disrupted to demonstrate capability without causing unnecessary deaths. As you can see, Sarah continued, this engagement could continue for quite some time. Your ships are powerful, but they're not designed to fight an opponent that can think 3 moves ahead and adapt in real time. Commander Thane's expression had changed from confidence to uncertainty. The hegemony had never encountered resistance of this sophistication. Their tactics were built around overwhelming firepower and rigid military doctrine, not adaptive strategies that changed moment by moment. What do you propose? He asked finally. Simple, Sarah said. You leave this system immediately and spread word throughout the galaxy that humanity is not a primitive species to be conquered. We're a partner species capable of enhancing any technology we encounter. The hegemony does not negotiate with lesser species, Thane growled, though his conviction seemed weakened. Then let me put it another way, Sarah said, her voice taking on a harder edge. You can leave peacefully, or you can explain to your superiors how an entire hegemony fleet was defeated by a single hybrid vessel crewed by beings you considered primitive. To emphasize her point, Sarah activated one of the ship's most impressive capabilities. The hybrid systems allowed them to simultaneously target every ship in the hegemony fleet while maintaining full defensive capabilities. Targeting locks appeared on every enemy vessel, showing that the ship could engage them all at once if necessary. The choice is yours, Commander, Sarah said. But choose quickly. My human impatience is starting to override my alien logic. Commander Thane stared at the tactical display for several long moments. His fleet was powerful enough to devastate Earth's surface, but this single hybrid ship had demonstrated capabilities that could cripple his entire force. Fighting would result in massive casualties even if the hegemony eventually won, and there was no guarantee they would win at all. "This is not over," he said finally. "The hegemony will return with larger fleets, better strategies." "I'm counting on it," Sarah replied with a smile. "By the time you return, we'll have built more ships like this one, and we'll have had time to study your technology and develop new countermeasures. Are you sure you want to start an arms race with a species that rebuilt a ship you considered unrepairable?" The implication was clear. If humans could transform abandoned alien technology into something more powerful than its original design, they could certainly improve their own technology at an unprecedented rate. Any future conflict would be against an increasingly capable opponent. "Withdraw to minimum safe distance," Commander Thane ordered his fleet. "We will monitor this system for future action." Sarah watched the hegemony ship slowly reverse course and begin moving toward the outer solar system. They weren't retreating exactly, but they weren't attacking either. It was the best outcome humanity could have hoped for given the circumstances. "You did it," Marcus said in amazement. "You actually convinced them to back down." "We did it," Sarah corrected, gesturing to include the entire crew. "Human creativity, Zephyrian technology, and the willingness to try something completely unprecedented." Through her connection to the ship systems, Sarah could monitor the hegemony fleet's communications as they withdrew. The aliens were arguing among themselves about how to report the encounter to their superiors. They had expected to conquer a primitive world in a matter of hours. Instead, they had been outmaneuvered by a single ship crewed by beings they had dismissed as insignificant. "Dr. Chen," General Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "The entire world is watching. What's our next step?" Sarah considered the question carefully. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but it was only temporary. The hegemony would return, and next time they would be prepared for hybrid technology. Humanity needed to be ready. "We build more ships," she said finally. "And we offer our technology to other species that want to stand against the hegemony. It's time to even the odds in this galaxy." The ship's AI provided her with data about dozens of civilizations that had been conquered or were currently under threat from the hegemony. With hybrid human-alien technology, it might be possible to liberate enslaved worlds and create an alliance of free species. "But first," Sarah continued, "we return to Earth. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we'll need every brilliant mind on the planet to help us prepare for what's coming." As the ship began its descent toward Earth, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment mixed with anticipation. They had proven that human innovation could enhance alien technology beyond its original capabilities. They had demonstrated that creativity and adaptability could overcome raw power and conventional tactics. Most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that humanity was not a species to be conquered or dismissed. They were potential partners, allies, and equals who could contribute something unique to galactic civilization. The hybrid ship touched down in the Nevada desert where the journey had begun, but everything had changed. The abandoned alien vessel had become a symbol of human determination and proof that no technology was beyond improvement when approached with creativity and courage. "Welcome home," Marcus said as they watched Earth grow larger on the display screens. "This isn't home anymore," Sarah replied thoughtfully. "Home is wherever we take our technology and our values, and I think it's time to take them to the stars." 6 months after the hegemony fleet's withdrawal from Earth's solar system, the planet had transformed into the galaxy's most ambitious shipbuilding center. The hybrid technology that Sarah and her team had developed was now being mass-produced in orbital facilities that stretched across the space between Earth and Luna. Sarah stood in the command center of the Freedom Station, humanity's first fully operational space shipyard. Through the massive observation windows, she could see dozens of vessels under construction, each one representing a fusion of human innovation and alien technology that had been salvaged, borrowed, or freely given by species seeking liberation from hegemony oppression. "Construction report, Captain Chen," Lieutenant Commander Park said, approaching with a tablet full of production data. Sarah's old colleague had been promoted to oversee the engineering aspects of the shipbuilding program, and she had adapted to military protocols with the same enthusiasm she had once applied to materials science. "Please, Lisa, we've worked together too long for formal titles," Sarah said with a smile. Her consciousness was still linked to alien technology, but months of integration had taught her to maintain her human personality while accessing enhanced capabilities. "Old habits," Lisa replied, though she relaxed slightly. "We have 12 vessels nearing completion, including 3 heavy cruisers based on the Arcturus design and 4 scout ships using the modified Zephyrian hull configuration. The hybrid weapon systems are performing beyond specifications." Sarah nodded, studying the data on Lisa's tablet. Each ship represented hundreds of human engineers and technicians working alongside alien refugees who had escaped hegemony conquest. The collaboration had produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. "What about our alien allies?" Sarah asked. "Are the Kithara still on schedule with their contribution?" "The Kithara delegation delivered the gravity manipulation technology yesterday," Lisa replied. "Dr. Kim says it will take another week to integrate it with our propulsion systems, but initial tests suggest we'll be able to create artificial gravity fields that can disrupt enemy formations." The Kithara were a peaceful species that had fled their homeworld when the hegemony arrived. Unlike many refugee species, they had brought advanced technology and a willingness to share it with humans who had proven capable of improving alien designs. Their gravity technology, when combined with human tactical thinking, had created weapons systems that could literally tear enemy ships apart. "And the Valdris," Sarah continued. "Their stealth technology is already integrated into the scout ships," Lisa said. "Combined with our adaptive camouflage systems, our scouts should be effectively invisible to standard hegemony sensors." Sarah felt a surge of satisfaction through her connection to the station's computer systems. Every ship being built represented not just military capability, but proof that different species could work together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. "Captain," Marcus's voice came over the communication system from the station's tactical center. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Meridian system. It's Admiral Torres." Sarah made her way to the communications center, where a holographic display showed Admiral Maria Torres, the commander of humanity's first interstellar military expedition. Torres was standing on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, the second hybrid vessel to be completed after Sarah's original ship. "Admiral, what's your status?" Sarah asked. "Mission accomplished," Torres replied with a grin. "The hegemony garrison at Meridian Prime has been eliminated and the Tauran population has been liberated. They're requesting to join our alliance." Sarah felt a mixture of pride and relief. The Meridian operation had been humanity's first offensive action against hegemony forces, designed to test their new ships and tactics against an enemy installation. The success proved that human-alien hybrid technology could stand against established hegemony military doctrine. "Casualties?" Sarah asked. "Minimal on our side," Torres reported. 3 crew members injured, no fatalities. The hybrid defensive systems performed flawlessly. Hegemony losses were significant but not total. We followed the engagement protocols and offered surrender terms." The engagement protocols were a uniquely human addition to galactic warfare. Rather than simply destroying enemy forces, human commanders were instructed to offer surrender opportunities and treat prisoners according to established humanitarian standards. It was a concept that confused most galactic civilizations, but it had proven strategically valuable. "Any hegemony forces accept surrender?" Sarah asked. "Actually, yes," Torres said with surprise. 2 entire ship crews decided to defect rather than fight to the death. Apparently, word is spreading through hegemony ranks about our treatment of prisoners and refugees. Some of their people are questioning whether perpetual conquest is really in their best interests. This was an unexpected development. The hegemony had maintained discipline through fear and indoctrination for centuries. The idea that individual hegemony soldiers might choose defection over loyalty represented a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. "Bring the defectors back with you," Sarah ordered. "I want to interview them personally. If we can convince hegemony forces to switch sides, it could change the entire nature of this conflict." "Understood," Torres replied. "We'll be back at Earth in 48 hours. Torres out." As the communication ended, Sarah reflected on how much had changed in just 6 months. Humanity had gone from a single experimental ship to a multi-species alliance with dozens of vessels and the capability to conduct offensive operations across multiple star systems. But the most significant change wasn't technological or military. It was philosophical. Humans had introduced concepts of cooperation, innovation, and ethical warfare that were reshaping how galactic civilizations thought about conflict and progress. "Captain Chen," a new voice called from behind her. Sarah turned to see Ambassador Kylix, a Zephyrian diplomat who served as the primary liaison between humanity and the growing alliance of liberated species. Kylix was tall and elegant, with the elongated features typical of his species, but his manner had adapted to human informality over the months of collaboration. "I bring word from the Galactic Council meeting at Centauri Station." The Galactic Council was an ancient organization that had supposedly maintained peace and order throughout the galaxy for millennia. In reality, they had become increasingly irrelevant as the hegemony expanded, and more aggressive species ignored their diplomatic protocols. "What's their position on our activities?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Officially, they condemn any military action that disrupts established territorial boundaries," Kylix said with what might have been a smile. "Unofficially, 12 member species have quietly requested technical assistance with defensive systems, and 3 have offered to provide logistics support for liberation operations." Sarah nodded. The Council was caught between their traditional neutrality and the growing recognition that the hegemony represented an existential threat to galactic civilization. They couldn't openly support human activities, but they weren't actively opposing them either. "What about the hegemony's response to our operations?" she asked. "Fleet Commander Thane has been recalled to Hegemony High Command," Kylix reported. "Intelligence suggests he's being court-martialed for his failure to conquer Earth. His replacement is said to be far more aggressive." This was concerning but not unexpected. The hegemony's entire power structure was built on the myth of invincibility. Defeats like Meridian Prime challenged that myth and required increasingly desperate responses from leadership. "Any word on their military response?" Sarah asked. 3 battle fleets have been reassigned to this sector," Kylix said grimly. "Over 200 ships, including some of their newest Dreadnought-class vessels. They're planning something significant." Sarah felt her enhanced consciousness, processing multiple streams of tactical data simultaneously. 200 ships represented the largest hegemony force ever assembled for a single operation. They weren't just planning to recapture lost territory. They were planning to make an example that would discourage any other species from joining the human alliance. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. "Intelligence estimates 6 to 8 weeks, Kylix replied. "Enough time to complete your current construction projects, but not enough to significantly expand your fleet." Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Humanity's alliance could field perhaps 50 ships by the time the hegemony arrived. Even with superior hybrid technology, those odds were daunting. They needed a tactical advantage beyond just better ships. "Kylix, I need you to send a message to every species in our alliance," she said. "Tell them we're implementing the Prometheus Protocol." Kylix's eyes widened. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's most ambitious project, the creation of a mobile shipyard that could rapidly construct new vessels during active conflict. It required every allied species to contribute their most advanced technology and their most skilled engineers. "Are you certain?" Kylix asked. "The protocol has never been tested under combat conditions, and it requires resources from every alliance member. If we're going to face 200 hegemony ships, we need to be able to replace our losses faster than they can destroy us," Sarah explained. "The Prometheus Protocol is our best chance of surviving a prolonged engagement." Over the next several weeks, representatives from every allied species converged on Freedom Station. The Kithara brought their gravity manipulation expertise. The Valdris contributed stealth and sensor technology. The Taurans offered their knowledge of advanced materials. Even some former hegemony species provided intelligence about enemy tactics and weaknesses. The result was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A massive mobile construction facility that could build new ships using automated systems while simultaneously serving as a command center for fleet operations. The Prometheus station was part shipyard, part fortress, and part symbol of what could be accomplished when different species worked together toward a common goal. Final systems check complete, Marcus reported from his position overseeing the station's integration. All alien technologies are interfacing properly with human command systems. The hybrid approach is working even better than we hoped. Sarah stood in the Prometheus station's command center, feeling the massive facilities systems through her neural link. The station was enormous, larger than most space habitats, but it moved through space with grace and precision. More importantly, its automated shipyards were already producing new vessels at a rate that would have been impossible for any single species. Construction update, Lisa called from her engineering station. We're completing one new ship every 18 hours. At this rate, we'll have over 70 vessels by the time the hegemony arrives. Tactical analysis, Sarah requested from the station's hybrid AI systems. Data flowed through her consciousness, fleet compositions, weapon capabilities, strategic options. The hegemony force was massive and powerful, but it was also conventional. They expected to face enemy fleets in traditional formations using established tactics. Marcus, are the new ships equipped with the consciousness interface systems? Sarah asked. All command vessels, yes, Marcus replied. We've got 12 volunteers from various species willing to undergo the hybrid integration process. This was perhaps humanity's most controversial innovation. The neural interface that linked organic consciousness with AI systems allowed for tactical coordination and decision-making that no traditional command structure could match. But it also permanently changed anyone who underwent the process. And our hegemony defectors, Sarah continued. Fully integrated into our tactical planning, Marcus said. They've provided detailed intelligence about hegemony command structures, weapon systems, and combat doctrines. Some of their insights have been invaluable. Sarah nodded. The hegemony defectors had been perhaps the most surprising aspect of the past few months. Word of human treatment of prisoners and refugees had spread through hegemony ranks, leading to a trickle of defections that was steadily growing into a stream. Long-range sensors are detecting the hegemony fleet's approach, announced Lieutenant Torres, Admiral Torres' younger sister who had joined the crew after her sister's successful mission. Display tactical overview, Sarah ordered. The command center's main display showed the approaching hegemony force. 230 ships arranged in a complex formation designed to maximize firepower while protecting their largest vessels. It was an impressive display of military power, the kind of force that could conquer entire star systems. But as Sarah studied the formation through her enhanced consciousness, she began to see weaknesses. The hegemony was using traditional tactics that assumed their enemies would also fight traditionally. They had no experience fighting an enemy that could adapt in real time, coordinate through direct consciousness links, and construct new ships during active combat. All Allied vessels, this is Captain Chen, she broadcast to the entire fleet. The hegemony has come to teach us our place in their galactic order. I suggest we show them that humans and our allies don't believe in predetermined places. Throughout the Alliance fleet, crews of multiple species prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history. In the shipyards of Prometheus Station, automated systems continued building new vessels that would join the fight as soon as they were completed. And in the minds of 12 consciousness-linked commanders, tactical plans began forming that no conventional military force could predict or counter. The battle for galactic freedom was about to begin. The battle for galactic freedom began at 3:47 hours Galactic Standard Time, when the hegemony fleet's forward scouts encountered the Alliance's outer defense perimeter near Jupiter's orbit. What the hegemony commanders expected to be a routine sensor sweep, instead, became the opening engagement of a conflict that would reshape galactic civilization. Sarah felt the battle through her consciousness linked to the Prometheus station's tactical systems. Every ship, every weapon, every maneuver appeared in her mind as streams of data that her hybrid human-AI awareness could process instantaneously. Around her in the command center, officers from a dozen different species worked together with a coordination that would have been impossible without shared technology and purpose. First contact confirmed, reported Commander Zeth, a Valdris officer whose species' natural telepathic abilities made him ideal for coordinating multi-species operations. Enemy scouts are attempting to penetrate our stealth screen. The stealth screen was one of humanity's tactical innovations. A network of ships using combined Valdris stealth technology and human electronic warfare systems to create a sensor barrier that concealed the true size and composition of the Alliance fleet. To hegemony sensors, it would appear that they faced perhaps 30 ships rather than the actual 75 vessels now operational. "Let them through selectively," Sarah ordered. "I want them to see exactly what we want them to see." Through the tactical link, she coordinated with the consciousness-linked commanders of other vessels. Admiral Torres, now commanding the heavy cruiser Defiance, positioned her ship to be visible to hegemony scouts while concealing two other vessels behind her energy signature. Captain Kith of the Kithera vessel Harmony used gravity manipulation to create false sensor readings that suggested weapon placements where none existed. The art of this deception was uniquely human. Other species might use stealth to hide completely or overwhelming force to win through direct assault. But humans specialized in making enemies see exactly what they expected to see while preparing surprises that conventional military thinking wouldn't anticipate. Hegemony main fleet is assuming standard conquest formation, Marcus reported from his tactical station. They're treating this as a routine suppression operation. Sarah smiled grimly. The hegemony's greatest strength, their rigid military discipline and proven tactics, was about to become their greatest weakness. They were approaching the battle with strategies that had worked for 1,000 years against conventional enemies. "All ships implement Plan Odyssey," she broadcast to the Alliance fleet. Plan Odyssey was named after humanity's ancient epic of a journey filled with unexpected challenges and creative solutions. Like its namesake, the tactical plan relied on adaptability, misdirection, and turning apparent weaknesses into advantages. The Alliance fleet began moving in patterns that appeared chaotic to traditional military analysis, but followed a complex algorithm designed by human tactical computers working in conjunction with alien strategic thinking. Ships would engage briefly, then withdraw, leading hegemony forces deeper into carefully prepared kill zones while maintaining the illusion of a retreat. "Enemy forces are taking the bait," reported Lieutenant Chen from the sensor station. "Hegemony dreadnoughts are advancing ahead of their escort vessels." This was exactly what the plan required. Hegemony tactics emphasized the protection of their largest ships by surrounding them with smaller, more maneuverable vessels. But human psychological analysis had identified hegemony commanders' tendency toward overconfidence when facing apparently inferior forces. "Begin Phase 2, Sarah ordered. Throughout the Alliance fleet, ships that had appeared to be retreating suddenly revealed concealed weapon systems. The Prometheus station's mobile shipyards, which had been disguised as debris fields, activated their defenses and began launching freshly constructed fighter craft. Most dramatically, a dozen Alliance ships that had been hiding in Jupiter's shadow using Valdris stealth technology suddenly appeared behind the advancing hegemony dreadnoughts. The first salvo of hybrid weapons struck the hegemony fleet with devastating effect. Human-designed missiles carrying Kithera gravity disruptors punched through energy shields that had been designed to stop traditional projectiles. Zephyrian energy beams, enhanced with human adaptive targeting systems, struck critical systems with precision that no hegemony commander had experienced before. But the Alliance's greatest advantage wasn't their weapons. It was their ability to adapt. Through the consciousness link, the 12 hybrid commanders shared tactical information instantaneously, allowing them to coordinate responses to enemy actions faster than any conventional command structure. "Hegemony forces are attempting to reorganize," Marcus reported. "They're pulling back to defensive formation Delta 7. Sarah processed this information through her enhanced consciousness. Defensive formation Delta 7 was a standard hegemony response to unexpected resistance. It pulled their largest ships into a protective shell, while their medium vessels attempted to identify and eliminate specific threats. "They're still thinking conventionally," she realized. "Admiral Torres, are you ready for the Prometheus Gambit?" "Standing by," Torres replied from across the fleet. "All consciousness-linked vessels are in position." The Prometheus Gambit was perhaps humanity's most audacious tactical innovation. While the enemy focused on identifying and engaging specific ships, the Alliance fleet would execute a maneuver that treated their entire force as a single, coordinated organism. "Execute," Sarah ordered. What followed challenged every assumption about space combat that had existed for millennia. The Alliance fleet moved not as individual ships, but as parts of a single entity, each vessel's actions perfectly coordinated with every other ship's movements. Ships that appeared to be fleeing suddenly became part of complex attack patterns. Vessels that seemed damaged revealed themselves to be perfectly functional components of larger tactical combinations. The effect on the Hegemony fleet was devastating. Their targeting systems, designed to track individual enemy ships, couldn't adapt to facing an opponent that functioned as a single, distributed intelligence. Their weapons, optimized for destroying specific targets, were ineffective against formations that could reconfigure faster than targeting solutions could be calculated. Hegemony casualties are mounting, reported Commander Zeth. But their reserve forces are moving to engage. They're committing everything they have. Through her sensor link, Sarah could see the full scope of the Hegemony response. Reserve ships that had been held back for pursuit operations were now being committed to the main battle. Support vessels were moving to combat positions. The Hegemony was no longer treating this as a routine conquest operation. They were fighting for their lives. All consciousness-linked vessels prepare for final coordination, Sarah broadcast. We're about to attempt something that no military force in galactic history has ever tried. What she was proposing went beyond tactical coordination. By linking not just the command systems, but the actual decision-making processes of all 12 hybrid commanders, the Alliance fleet could function with a unity that transcended individual ship operations. It was risky. The consciousness links had never been tested at this level of integration. But conventional tactics weren't going to defeat a force of 200 Hegemony ships. Consciousness link established, reported Dr. Kim, who had undergone the hybrid integration process specifically to manage fleet-wide coordination. All commanders are linked and synchronized. The sensation was unlike anything Sarah had experienced. Her consciousness expanded to encompass not just her own ship and the Prometheus station, but every vessel in the Alliance fleet. She could feel Admiral Tor's tactical instincts, Captain Kith's understanding of gravity manipulation, Commander Zeth's telepathic awareness of enemy intentions. More importantly, she could feel something that no military commander in galactic history had ever experienced: the collective determination of 12 different species working toward a common goal. Humans, Zephyrians, Kythera, Valdris, Taurans, and even former Hegemony species all united in the belief that cooperation could triumph over conquest. "Initiate final phase," she said, though her voice now carried harmonics from all 12 linked commanders. The Alliance fleet's final assault was a masterpiece of coordinated warfare. Ships moved in perfect harmony, each vessel's actions complementing every other ship's capabilities. Weapons fire was timed to the nanosecond to overwhelm specific enemy defenses. Defensive maneuvers were calculated to protect not just individual ships, but the fleet's overall tactical integrity. But the most devastating aspect of the assault wasn't its coordination. It was its psychological impact. The Hegemony fleet found themselves fighting an enemy that anticipated their every move, countered their every strategy, and adapted to their every tactic faster than they could implement new ones. "Hegemony flagship is requesting communication," Marcus reported with amazement. Sarah felt a moment of triumph through the consciousness link. The Hegemony flagship was the command vessel of Fleet Admiral Corzin, the military leader who had replaced the disgraced Commander Thane. If Corzin was requesting communication, it meant the Hegemony was ready to consider options other than total warfare. "On screen," Sarah ordered. The display showed the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, where Fleet Admiral Corzin stood surrounded by damage reports and tactical displays showing the systematic destruction of his fleet. The alien commander's expression showed something that no Hegemony leader had displayed in centuries: uncertainty. "I am Fleet Admiral Corzin of the Hegemony," he began formally. "I request terms for cessation of hostilities." Sarah felt the collective consciousness of her linked commanders processing this moment. They had achieved something unprecedented, forcing the Hegemony to request a ceasefire rather than fighting to the last ship. "I am Captain Sarah Chen, representing the Alliance of Free Species," she replied. "We're willing to discuss terms." "What are your demands?" Corzin asked, his military training warring with the reality that his supposedly invincible fleet had been systematically defeated by an enemy force half its size. Simple, Sarah said, her voice carrying the collective will of 12 species. Withdrawal of all hegemony forces from conquered systems, recognition of the rights of all species to self-determination, and cessation of conquest operations against any species that chooses freedom over subjugation. Corzin's expression shifted through several emotions. The hegemony has maintained order in this galaxy for over a millennium. Without our structure, there will be chaos. Order imposed through conquest isn't order, Sarah replied. It's oppression. We're offering a different model, cooperation between equals, technological sharing that benefits everyone, and protection for those who choose to remain independent. And if the hegemony refuses these terms? Sarah gestured to the tactical displays that showed the current battle situation. The hegemony fleet was not destroyed, but it was clearly defeated. More importantly, the Alliance had demonstrated capabilities that traditional military thinking couldn't counter. Then this engagement continues until you're prepared to accept them, she said simply. But Admiral, consider this. We've defeated your fleet without destroying it. Your casualties have been minimal because we chose to disable rather than destroy. That's not the action of a conquering force. It's the action of species that believe in the possibility of peace. Corzin studied the tactical displays for several minutes. His fleet was intact but helpless. His weapons were functional but ineffective against an enemy that could adapt faster than he could respond. Most importantly, his entire worldview that military might determine galactic order had been proven false. I will need to consult with Hegemony High Command, he said finally. Of course, Sarah replied. But Admiral, when you speak to your superiors, tell them this. The age of conquest is ending. Species throughout the galaxy are learning to work together to combine their strengths rather than fighting over their differences. The hegemony can be part of that future, or it can be left behind by it. As the communication ended, Sarah felt the collective consciousness of the linked commanders beginning to separate back into individual awareness. The battle was over, but the larger war for galactic freedom had just begun. Status report, she requested as her consciousness returned to normal parameters. Allied casualties, 12 injured, no fatalities, Marcus reported. Hegemony casualties, extensive damage to 80% of their fleet but minimal loss of life. All enemy vessels are disabled but repairable. And our production capabilities? Sarah asked. Prometheus Station has completed construction of 6 new vessels during the engagement, Lisa reported with pride. We actually came out of the battle with more ships than we started with. Sarah smiled as she realized the full implications of their victory. They hadn't just defeated a hegemony fleet. They had proven that cooperation could triumph over conquest, that diversity was stronger than uniformity, and that the willingness to adapt and innovate was more powerful than rigid military doctrine. Marcus, open a channel to all Alliance vessels and Earth Command, she ordered. Channel open. This is Captain Chen to all Alliance forces and Earth Command, she broadcast. The hegemony fleet has been defeated with minimal casualties on both sides. Their commander is requesting terms for cessation of hostilities. The Alliance has proven that free species working together can defend themselves against any threat. She paused, feeling the weight of history in this moment. But this victory is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy that there's an alternative to conquest and subjugation. Now we must prove that cooperation can build a better future than any empire. As celebration messages began coming in from throughout the Alliance fleet and from Earth, Sarah looked out at the stars through the command center's observation windows. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of species and countless worlds. Many of them still lived under hegemony rule or the threat of conquest. But for the first time in centuries, there was hope. Hope that different species could work together as equals. Hope that technology could be shared rather than hoarded. Hope that the future could be built on cooperation rather than conquest. The abandoned alien ship that had crash-landed in the Nevada desert had become the seed of a transformation that would reshape galactic civilization. And it had all begun with humanity's refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible to fix. As Sarah watched, the Prometheus Station's automated shipyards began construction of new vessels that would carry the message of freedom to every corner of the galaxy. The stars no longer seemed distant and hostile. They seemed like destinations waiting to be reached by those brave enough to dream of something better. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun,